courtroom smelled faintly of polish and coffee. Rows of cameras blinked like mechanical eyes, capturing every whisper for the millions who watched this show called Justice Graves. A place where truth wasn't rehearsed and mercy wasn't guaranteed. Bailiff Reed stood tall at the front, his badge catching the studio light. When he spoke, his voice rolled through the room like thunder controlled by discipline. All rise. The Honorable Judge Helena Graves presiding. The audience rose. A hush fell as Judge Graves entered, robes flowing, her expression carved from calm authority. She didn't hurry. She didn't have to. The sound of her steps alone commanded obedience. "Be seated," she said. Chairs scraped softly against the floor. Cameras adjusted their zoom. At the plaintiff's table sat Monica Vailen, a woman who looked more like she belonged on a billboard than in a courtroom. Her designer suit shimmered under the lights, her diamond bracelet catching every angle. Even here, she knew where the camera was. Across from her sat Elena Marin, small, neat, nervous. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap as if she were holding herself together. The wrinkles at the corners of her eyes spoke of long hours and quiet endurance. Judge Graves lifted the file before her, eyes scanning. Case 2271. Monica Vailen versus Elena Marin. Claim, defamation. Her gaze rose, steady as a level beam of light. "Ms. Vailen, you are the plaintiff. You may begin." Monica smiled. A television smile, flawless and practiced. "Thank you, Your Honor." She stood gracefully, letting her words drip with charm. "I'm here because my former employee has spread lies about me on the internet. She's trying to destroy my reputation, my brand, and everything I've built." Judge Graves rested her chin on her hand. "Your brand?" "Yes," Monica said proudly. "Vailen Life. It's a lifestyle company that empowers women to live elegantly. I have millions of followers. I teach success, confidence, transformation." Judge Graves raised one brow. "And you believe Ms. Marin has damaged this?" "Absolutely. She posted false stories about how I treated her, claiming I underpaid and humiliated her. It's nonsense, but it's hurting my partnerships. People believe anything online." The judge nodded slowly. "Do you have evidence that these statements are false?" Monica's smile flickered. "Screenshots, comments, gossip, evidence?" The judge repeated, her tone like a scalpel. "Not echoes. We'll see those in a moment." Across the room, Elena's breathing quickened. She had never been on camera before. She hadn't wanted this. She had only wanted fairness. Judge Graves turned to her. "Ms. Marin, you may respond." Elena stood hesitantly. "Your Honor, everything I said was true. I worked for Ms. Vailen for 6 years. I cleaned her house, took care of her dogs, sometimes stayed overnight when she traveled. I never meant to hurt anyone. I just answered questions when people asked why I left." Monica laughed under her breath, loud enough for the microphones. "Because she couldn't even iron properly." Bailiff Reed shifted forward, but Judge Graves lifted a finger. Her voice stayed calm. "Ms. Vailen, interruptions are not tolerated. You'll speak when it's your turn." Monica leaned back, folding her arms, irritation flashing behind her mascara. Elena continued quietly. "I was fired after I asked to be paid for extra hours. I often worked 60 hours a week, but I was only paid for 40. A ripple of murmurs moved through the audience. The cameras adjusted again, feeding on the tension. Judge Graves' eyes narrowed slightly. 60 hours? Did you keep any record?" "Yes, ma'am. My notebook, and my phone logs. I texted her assistant many times." Monica gave a sharp laugh. "Here we go with the victim story." Judge Graves turned her gaze on her. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. "Ms. Vailen, one more interruption and Officer Reed will escort you outside. Are we clear?" Monica's lips parted, then shut. She nodded stiffly. The judge gestured. "Continue, Ms. Marin." "I loved my job," Elena said, voice trembling but steady. "But I was told I should be grateful to work for someone like her, that I was lucky she noticed me." "That's what she said." A low gasp traveled through the audience. Judge Graves tilted her head. "Do you have witnesses?" Elena nodded. Her driver heard it, and her assistant recorded part of it because she said one day people wouldn't believe how staff were treated. Monica snapped upright. "You can't record in my house. That's private." Judge Graves' tone cooled. "If it was recorded during a workplace conversation, it qualifies as employment evidence. Officer Reed, please collect the file." The bailiff walked forward. Taking a flash drive from Elena's trembling hand, he slotted it into the court monitor. The screen blinked to life. Static. Then video. A marble kitchen gleamed under designer lighting. The voice that filled the room was unmistakable. Sharp, haughty, dripping with disdain. "You people are replaceable. Don't start thinking you matter." The audience gasped collectively. Monica's smile collapsed. "That's edited. Out of context." Judge Graves remained motionless. "It's remarkable," she murmured, "how context always gets blamed when truth finally speaks." The recording ended. Silence pressed against every wall. Elena stared at the floor, tears brimming. Monica fidgeted with her bracelet, the jingle of diamonds like nervous applause. Judge Graves leaned back. "Ms. Vailen, this program is called Justice Graves for a reason. This isn't social media. It's truth media. Remember that." Her gavel struck once. The crack echoed like a gunshot. The show's producer signaled the cameras for a close-up. The audience held their breath. Monica looked around, cheeks flushed. "She's lying. She hates that I'm successful. That's all this is." Judge Graves' gaze didn't waver. Success built on disrespect is failure in disguise. Even Bailiff Reed's stance stiffened at the weight of that line. Elena whispered, "I didn't want to come here, Your Honor, but when she called me a thief online, people began sending me threats. I had to defend myself." Judge Graves nodded slowly. "Then let's bring everything into light, Ms. Marin. Truth doesn't fear sunlight." She turned to the plaintiff. "Ms. Vailen, do you have any payroll records proving payment for the hours Ms. Marin claims she worked?" Monica hesitated, eyes darting to her lawyer. He quickly produced a folder. "We have the pay stubs, Your Honor. All official." Judge Graves motioned for them. The papers were handed to Officer Reed, who carried them to the bench. The judge adjusted her glasses, scanning the documents. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. "These signatures," she said. "They appear inconsistent." Monica leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "That's my handwriting." Judge Graves held one page beside another, then set them side by side for the monitor. The camera zoomed in. One signature was elegant and looping. The other looked hurried, uneven, close but not the same. "Strange," Judge Graves said softly. "One looks like pride. The other looks like panic." The gallery murmured again. Monica's lawyer cleared his throat. "It's possible the assistant filled these electronically, Your Honor." "Possible," Judge Graves replied, "but not probable." She flipped another page. "Especially when the file data shows these documents were created 3 days after Ms. Marin filed her complaint." Gasps broke out. Monica's head snapped toward her attorney. "Wait, what?" The clerk confirmed from the side desk. "Metadata verified this morning, Your Honor. Files were backdated." Judge Graves folded her hands, her voice calm but edged with iron. "Ms. Vailen, would you like to amend your statement? Or shall we proceed under the assumption that falsified records were submitted to this court?" Monica's voice cracked. I didn't tell anyone to change anything. My lawyer." "Counselor," Judge Graves cut in, "did you review these before submission?" The lawyer's face paled. "To the best of my ability, Your Honor." "Then your ability," she said, "may require serious reflection." The air turned electric. The cameras caught every blink. Monica swallowed hard. "This is ridiculous. Everyone's turning on me because I'm successful." Judge Graves leaned forward, voice low. "No, Ms. Vailen. They're turning because truth finally has a voice louder than your ego." Bailiff Reed shifted subtly, sensing things might explode. Monica slammed her manicured hand on the table. I built everything myself. No one gave me anything. Judge Graves' reply was almost gentle. Then why do you fear losing it to one woman's honesty? Silence. A long, trembling silence that felt like judgment itself. The cameras rolled closer. The producer mouthed, "Keep going, this is gold." Judge Graves set the forged documents aside. Officer Reed, mark these for potential investigation. He nodded, taking the folder. Ms. Vailen, the judge said, the higher you build your image, the further it falls when it cracks. You might want to brace for impact. The gavel came down once, not as anger, but as prophecy. The sound lingered, heavy, echoing, final. Monica's diamond bracelet no longer glittered. It trembled with the faint shake of her hand. The courtroom felt colder than before. The polished floor no longer gleamed with glamour. It reflected only tension. Even the cameras seemed to hum lower, as if aware that something serious had just shifted. Judge Helena Graves sat perfectly still, her hands folded like the pages of an unread verdict. Bailiff Reed stood beside the bench, silent but alert, his eyes tracing every movement of the plaintiff's table. Monica Vailen looked smaller now. Her designer posture had melted into a nervous slump. Her lawyer whispered frantically, papers scattered before him like broken mirrors of a lost defense. Judge Graves broke the silence. Ms. Vailen, this court operates on evidence, not performance. Forged signatures are not a misunderstanding. They are manipulation. Do you understand the weight of that? Monica's voice trembled. I didn't forge anything. Someone on my team must have tried to help, without my permission. The judge's eyes hardened. Convenient ignorance is still responsibility. Leadership isn't just about applause. It's about accountability. The audience murmured in quiet approval. Across the aisle, Elena Marin clasped her notebook tightly. She didn't smile. She wasn't here to celebrate. She was here to survive the truth. Judge Graves gestured. Ms. Marin, please step forward. Elena approached the witness stand. Her shoes made the faintest echo, like courage learning to walk. Officer Reed guided her gently, swore her in, and stepped aside. Ms. Marin, said the judge, you have stated you were underpaid, overworked, and disrespected. Please describe, in your own words, what life was like working for the plaintiff. Elena hesitated, glancing briefly at Monica, who folded her arms defensively. Then Elena spoke, soft at first, but every word carried the honesty that makes lies look smaller. It was beautiful at the beginning, she said. Her house was huge, her parties were glamorous. She said we were family. I believed her, but slowly it changed. We weren't family, we were invisible. Judge Graves nodded. Go on. Elena swallowed hard. She'd call me in the middle of the night because her dog barked. She made me travel without paying for my food or hotel. When I asked for my overtime, she said, if you want a rich life, start thinking rich. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Monica's lawyer objected. Hearsay, Your Honor. Judge Graves turned slowly. Counselor, you may be unfamiliar with this courtroom's motto. Truth before theatrics. Overruled. The audience chuckled softly. Elena continued, tears shining in her eyes. When she fired me, she told her followers I stole from her. She said I took jewelry. But the police never even found anything missing. Judge Graves' brow furrowed. Was there a report filed? Yes, ma'am. It was dismissed within a week. Officer Reed stepped forward and handed the judge a printed record. Judge Graves skimmed it. Indeed. Case closed. No evidence found. Monica looked away, jaw tightening. The judge placed the file aside. Ms. Vailen, defamation works both ways. You claim you were defamed, yet you publicly accused your employee of theft without proof. Do you acknowledge that? Monica's voice wavered. I was angry. My jewelry was gone. Elena spoke up softly. It wasn't gone. It was in her gym bag. Her assistant found it the next day. The audience gasped again. Judge Graves leaned forward, expression unreadable. Is that true? Monica's silence answered louder than words. Ms. Vailen, I don't recall, she muttered. Judge Graves tapped her pen once, an unmistakable warning. You are under oath. Monica exhaled sharply. Fine. Yes, it was found. But that doesn't change how she spoke about me online. The judge's tone turned measured. So, to summarize, you fired her unjustly, accused her of theft, and then sued her for telling her side of the story? Monica glared. She humiliated me publicly. Correction, said Judge Graves. She defended herself privately until you made it public. There's a difference between exposure and self-protection. The courtroom fell still. Elena wiped her eyes. Your Honor, I didn't post anything until people attacked me. I just wanted to live quietly again. Judge Graves nodded gently. You deserve that. Then, turning to Monica, Ms. Vailen, power is a mirror. It reflects what you show. What do you think the world is seeing now? Monica said nothing. Her silence was her confession. Call your next witness, Judge Graves ordered. Elena's lawyer, an older woman named Patricia Dale, stood. Your Honor, the defense calls Ms. Harper Stone, former personal assistant to Ms. Vailen. A tall woman in a gray suit approached. She carried herself with quiet authority, her gaze steady. The moment she took the stand, the atmosphere shifted again. Truth was about to sharpen. Ms. Stone, said Judge Graves. You worked closely with the plaintiff? Yes, Your Honor. Nearly 3 years. Describe her management style. Harper exhaled slowly. Intense. Demanding. Sometimes unfair. She treated her staff like props for her brand. If you weren't photogenic or obedient, you disappeared. Monica slammed her hand on the table. That's a lie. Bailiff Reed stepped forward. Mom. Judge Graves raised her gavel slightly. One more outburst and you'll be escorted out, Ms. Vailen. Harper continued. I recorded a few incidents because I was scared we'd be blamed for things she did. Judge Graves nodded to Officer Reed, who inserted another flash drive. The screen lit up. Monica's voice filled the courtroom again. Furious. Commanding. If anyone tells me no again, they're gone. I don't pay for opinions. I pay for obedience. The courtroom froze. The judge pressed pause. Ms. Stone, when was this recorded? 2 months before Ms. Marin was fired. Judge Graves looked at Monica. Would you like to comment? Monica's lips quivered. Everyone loses their temper. I'm human. Indeed, said the judge. But humanity without humility becomes cruelty. Even the cameras seemed to pause on that line. Monica's lawyer tried to recover. Your Honor, this entire case has been twisted by emotion. My client is a public figure. She is being targeted because she is famous. Judge Graves interlaced her fingers. Counselor, fame is not immunity. It's a microscope, and what we've seen under that lens today is disturbing. He opened his mouth again, but the judge raised her hand. Enough. You may sit down. The man obeyed instantly. Monica whispered furiously to him, do something. But he looked beaten. The glimmer of confidence that once surrounded them had evaporated. Judge Graves turned back to Elena. Ms. Marin, one question. After everything, if you could speak directly to Ms. Vailen, what would you say? Elena's voice broke slightly. I'd say, I hope one day you treat people the way you wanted to be treated when you had nothing. Monica blinked rapidly, emotion flickering behind the layers of pride. Judge Graves let the silence settle like dust. Then she spoke softly, but her tone carried absolute authority. This court was built not just for justice, but for reflection. And Ms. Vailen, I believe you've been handed a mirror today. Whether you look into it or break it is your choice. But understand this. If you break it, you'll cut only yourself. A long pause. Then the gavel struck once. The court finds insufficient evidence to support the plaintiff's claim of defamation. The counterclaim regarding harassment and unpaid wages will proceed in civil court. Case dismissed. Bailiff Reed's voice boomed. All rise. The audience stood. The sound of their movement was almost reverent. Judge Graves rose slowly. Her eyes met Monica's one last time. Remember, Ms. Vailen, truth doesn't ruin reputations. Lies do. Then she left the bench. Monica stood frozen, makeup flawless but spirit fractured. The cameras zoomed in on her face, an image that would loop endlessly online. The fall of a woman who built an empire out of appearances. Elena gathered her notebook, clutching it like a medal earned through endurance. Harper Stone placed a hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. Elena nodded, whispering, finally. The crowd began to file out. The lights dimmed. Only the echo of the gavel remained. A reminder that even in a world built on spectacle, truth is still the loudest sound. The scene fades to a small bakery. The morning light spills through the window. Elena Marin stands behind the counter, dusted with flour, smiling genuinely for the first time in years. On a nearby television, the news plays quietly. Monica Vailen announces hiatus from social media following court controversies. Sources say she plans to start a charity for domestic workers. Elena pauses, watching. She doesn't smile or frown, just nods once. Slowly, she whispers to herself, maybe that mirror finally worked. Then she turns off the TV, kneads dough, and hums softly, a melody of peace. Outside, the sign reads, Second Chance Bakery, baked with truth. The camera pans out, sunlight pouring through the window, closing the story not with revenge, but redemption. The courtroom had emptied hours ago, but the echoes of Judge Helena Graves' gavel lingered like a ghost. Monica Vailen sat alone, head tilted, eyes scanning the polished floor, diamonds dull under the fluorescent lights. Her empire, once shimmering in every corner of the media, felt suddenly fragile. Her lawyer hovered beside her, wringing his hands. Ms. Vailen, you need a plan. The story's already gone viral. Every network has picked it up. Monica's voice was quieter than usual, stripped of its practiced confidence. I can't believe it happened this way. Everything I built, exposed like this. The lawyer's lips pressed together. You underestimated the truth. That's the problem. Outside the courtroom, the world had not stopped. The social media platforms erupted with clips from the trial. Monica's voice commanding, threatening, collapsing under its own arrogance. Every view, every share, replayed her unraveling. Followers dropped, sponsors reconsidered contracts, and the brand she had nurtured suddenly looked hollow. Elena Marin walked down a quiet street, a folder of court documents clutched under her arm. She had returned to her small apartment, where the morning light kissed her kitchen counters. Baking had become her therapy, her rebellion against years of invisible labor. She switched on the TV. A news anchor's voice filled the room. Monica Vailen announces a hiatus from social media. Analysts suggest this comes after the highly publicized court case in which her former employee, Elena Marin, exposed allegations of unfair treatment and falsified payroll records. Elena's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. She had no desire for revenge. This was not her victory over Monica. It was her freedom, her dignity restored. Across town, Monica stared at the same broadcast from her penthouse apartment. The gold and glass that had defined her life felt suddenly cold. She picked up her phone, scrolling through comments. Some sympathetic, many critical, some mocking. Every line struck like a small hammer against her carefully constructed persona. Days later, Monica found herself in a private meeting with her former assistant, Harper Stone. Harper had become an inadvertent hero, the witness whose recording had tipped the scales of justice. Monica, Harper began gently, this isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. You can choose to rebuild, but it must start with honesty. Monica's eyes flickered, the first hint of self-awareness surfacing. I don't know if I even know who I am anymore. Everyone sees me as this, the influencer, the brand, the empire. Harper nodded. And maybe that's exactly the problem. You built it out of people's labor and fear, not trust. Truth doesn't break brands. It transforms them. You have a choice. Continue denial or start repairing what you've broken. Monica was silent for a long moment, turning over every word, feeling the weight of the trial press down like a second gavel. Monica decided to make her first move toward accountability. She called Elena Marin, her former employee, and requested a meeting. The tension in the air when Elena arrived was almost palpable. I don't expect forgiveness," Monica said, voice subdued. "But I want to understand. I want to make it right as much as I can." Elena crossed her arms, wary. "Actions speak louder than words, Ms. Vailen. You've had 6 years to show respect. Now it's your turn." Monica nodded. "I will start by correcting every falsified record, publicly acknowledging the truth, and ensuring fair payment for everyone I've worked with." Elena's expression softened just slightly. "That's a start." The two women sat in silence for a few minutes, the kind of silence that can't be forced, only earned. Outside, the city continued, unaware that a small but meaningful reconciliation was quietly unfolding. Weeks later, the trial's repercussions had rippled across the digital world. Monica Vailen's brand had taken a hit, sponsors pulled back, and headlines labeled her as a cautionary tale. But Judge Helena Graves remained the voice of measured authority. From her chambers, she recorded a segment for her show. "Power and pride are intoxicating," she said, eyes steady on the camera. "But they are fragile when they are built on the labor and dignity of others." This trial was not about vengeance. It was about truth, revealing what happens when arrogance meets accountability. Remember, no amount of money, fame, or followers can replace integrity. Her words echoed far beyond the courtroom, a reminder that justice was as much about morality as it was about law. Monica sat in her penthouse, flipping through the past months like a catalog of missteps. The diamonds glinted, but they no longer impressed her. She stared at the mirrored walls, seeing herself clearly for the first time, not as a brand, but as a person. She spoke softly to herself. "I can't erase the past, but maybe I can build something that doesn't hurt others in the process." Her assistant entered, hesitant. "Your first public statement?" "Yes," Monica replied, voice firm. "And it's going to be honest." The cameras outside her building rolled, catching her as she stepped onto the balcony. She addressed her followers directly, a vulnerability she had never shown before. "I've made mistakes. I let my ambition overshadow the people who helped me succeed. Today I start a new chapter, one with truth, fairness, and accountability. I can't undo the past, but I can learn from it." The words went viral within minutes. Some criticized, some praised, but the point was clear. Monica was no longer untouchable. She was human, accountable, and publicly humbled. Elena returned to her small apartment, where the smell of fresh bread greeted her like comfort. She baked quietly, smiling as she packed orders for her new business, one built on honesty, diligence, and dignity. The courtroom had given her validation, but life beyond it gave her freedom. She had survived the arrogance, stood up for truth, and now walked forward unburdened. As she delivered a tray of pastries to a local cafe, she whispered, "Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and unstoppable." Months later, the world had moved on, but the lesson endured. Monica Vailen had rebuilt her brand cautiously, now incorporating ethics and accountability into every project. Elena Marin had established a thriving business, respected and beloved by her community. Judge Helena Graves watched from her chambers, reviewing cases for the week. She smiled faintly, eyes reflecting both satisfaction and caution. Justice, she knew, was never finished. It simply demanded attention, vigilance, and courage. In the end, the courtroom had been more than a stage. It had been a mirror, and those who faced it, Monica, Elena, and even the witnesses, emerged changed. Some humbled, some empowered, all reminded that truth, though sometimes delayed, never fails to arrive. The gavel's echo lingered in memory, the quiet reminder that pride is fragile, and dignity, once defended, is immortal.